There's this whole world of tourism that most people never even hear about. Battlefield tourism. But for South African Defense Force veterans, especially those who served in Angola, it's more than just a trip. It's something a lot deeper. Can you walk us through how these tours even became a thing for these veterans?
Absolutely. And it's pretty fascinating how it's evolved. For many SADF veterans, revisiting the Angolan battlefields isn't about reliving old glories. Instead, it's almost like a pilgrimage, a search for closure, understanding, and maybe a little peace with the past. Over the last decade, more and more veterans have been organizing group tours or personal journeys back to those sites.
That's interesting. So it's not just about seeing the places, but working through old wounds, maybe even trauma.
Exactly. In fact, a lot of these veterans are looking for answers to things that haunted them for years, events that happened in the chaos of war. Some want to honor fallen comrades. Others want to make sense of what they went through. And the act of physically being at those places can be surprisingly powerful for mental healing.
You mentioned closure and healing. What else motivates these veterans to go back to the Angolan battlefields? Are there common threads in why they decide to take these tours?
A few big ones come up again and again. Camaraderie, the need to reconnect with people who shared those intense times, and even a sense of family belonging. Many veterans spoke about wanting to rebuild those old friendships or simply process what happened with people who truly understand.
So it's less about sightseeing and more about sharing an experience with old comrades. I imagine there's something unique about being able to talk openly with people who were actually there.
Definitely. The interviews showed that many veterans went in hoping to find closure. But what surprised some participants was how much the shared stories, the laughter, even the tears, created a deep sense of unity. For some, it was the first time they felt understood after decades of carrying heavy memories.
That actually reminds me of how people talk about reunions, not just catching up, but rediscovering that bond you thought was gone. Only here, the stakes are much higher. Speaking of heavy memories, I'm curious, how does actually going on these battlefield tours impact veterans emotionally? Do they really feel different afterward?
There's a real mix, but the research found that most veterans reported a positive shift. Before the trip, a number of them described themselves as coping. Some felt stable, others still dealt with stress or lingering trauma. But after visiting Angola, many said it became easier to talk about their experiences and emotions, like a weight lifted after years of silence.
That's pretty moving. So, it's not just about facing the past, but also about opening up in the present. What about changes in their social lives? Did those ties to friends or even family shift after the tour?
Oh, for sure. Social circles often expanded, and bonds between veterans got noticeably stronger. Some found themselves reaching out more to family as well, sometimes feeling more involved or understood at home. It wasn't universal. Those who already had strong family support didn't always notice a change. Still, even a few said they started seeing their children more often or found themselves more emotionally available.
It's wild to think a trip back to a battlefield could spark that kind of ripple effect, helping veterans not only heal, but reconnect with others in ways they didn't expect. Let's talk about the big picture. How did these battlefield tours affect the overall quality of life for the veterans beyond just emotions or friendships?
Most veterans described a boost in their general sense of well-being after the tour. It wasn't just that they felt better emotionally. It spilled over into how they saw themselves, their relationships, and even their outlook on life. For many, achieving closure at those sites meant they could finally put some things to rest and move forward with more positivity.
Were there areas that didn't really shift at all? I'm thinking about things like leisure activities or day-to-day routines.
Great point. Leisure life actually didn't change much. Most veterans already had satisfying hobbies or routines, so the tour didn't really touch that part. The most dramatic improvements were in social connections, camaraderie, and, for some, family life. It's a classic example of how changes in one area, like emotional healing, can ripple out and raise someone's whole quality of life.
Funny you say that, because it sounds like what's good for the heart ends up being good for everything else, too. So, if these tours are making such a difference, what should veteran organizations or even tourism planners be thinking about? Could this model help more veterans or expand beyond just Angola?
Absolutely, and that's one of the biggest takeaways. If organizers really tune in to what motivates veterans, helping them find closure, build camaraderie, and process tough experiences, then battlefield tourism could become a powerful healing tool. And it's not just about individual healing. These tours can strengthen whole communities of veterans.
It feels like there's huge potential here, both for helping veterans psychologically and for building a thoughtful, respectful tourism industry. I wonder if we'll see similar projects take root in other places with tough military histories.
I hope so. The study did mention that future research could explore this internationally to see if the same benefits appear elsewhere. Either way, it's a reminder that travel isn't just about places, it's about meaning, healing, and connection. For these veterans, those battlefields became a path home in more ways than one.